In the deepest trench of the primordial sea, you are a Leviathan. The pressure crushes every other creature, yet it only shapes you. Your body is long and coiled like a serpent, covered in dark blue scales that glimmer faintly when a shard of light dares to sink this far. Your jaw is massive even at birth, lined with teeth sharper than the spines of any fish. A ridge of bone rises from your skull, running down your back like jagged armor, ending in a tail that lashes with the force of a storm. Your eyes burn pale in the darkness, twin lanterns that turn the abyss into your domain. You do not belong to the world of fish or whales. You are something older, heavier, cursed. Even as small as you are now, nothing around you dares to treat you as prey. Hunger drives you forward before you even understand what you are. Shoals scatter at the slightest twitch of your body. Your jaw closes once, and a dozen vanish into your throat. Sharks test you, circling with hungry eyes, but their charge ends in torn flesh and floating blood. Their broken bodies sink into the black, and you keep moving because still the hunger gnaws. Every victory only leaves you emptier. The ocean is not a cradle for you, it is an endless battlefield. Even the silence is not peace, it is pressure on every scale, every rib, as if the sea itself is trying to crush you back into the dark mud from which you were born. You grow faster than anything alive. Days mean nothing. Weeks pass, and already your length rivals the largest predators of the sea. Your body bends currents, drags entire schools in your wake, yet no matter how much you consume, the ache never ends. Other creatures avoid you, not by chance, but by instinct. They feel your presence like a storm coming, and their fear leaves you with only more isolation. Even in youth, you are marked, set apart, forced into a role you cannot escape. There is no gentle stage of life, no childhood to hide behind. You are born carrying the weight of your curse, and every heartbeat reminds you of it. The abyss does not forgive weakness. Every breath is a war. The pressure squeezes your chest until bones creak, and yet you endure. The cold cuts deeper than blades, gnawing at your muscles, but still you swim. You learn that survival is not about triumph, but about never stopping. Each moment you endure, each pulse of your heart, is defiance against a world that rejects you. And still, no matter how hard you fight, you feel the certainty that the ocean itself is against you, that your very existence is an insult to the waters you inhabit. This is only the beginning of your curse, because the larger you become, the worse it will be. You have become colossal. Scale plates as hard as forged iron layer your length, slick with salt and pressure. Each tooth is a pale spear, each bite wide enough to split a hull. A ridge like a saw runs from skull to tail, flaring when you turn and cutting the water into ribbons. The bulk that once protected now confines. You try to slide into a cave you knew as a hatchling and the stone groans. You try to vanish beneath a kelp forest and the fronds bend and shiver a path that points straight at you. Even your breath betrays you, driving silt off the floor in rolling clouds that rise like smoke and drift for hours for every hunter to read. Hunger does not ease with sighs. It deepens into an ache that gnaws at bone. You need constant fuel, and every chase writes your presence across the sea. Bioluminescent flecks bloom along your wake in long bruised lines. Shoals scatter in patterns that sailors can see from far above. When you strike, the shock travels through water and rock, a drumbeat that tells the coast you are moving again. Scavengers trail your shadow for scraps. They lead others to you. Your shape commands fear, and fear calls challengers. Canoes creep along moonlines, their paddles lifting and dipping in perfect silence, hoping to measure your length before fleeing to brag. Heavier ships come with barbed ropes and prayer songs. Some offer bait on iron hooks as wide as doors. Some carry jars of burning oil to spill on the surface so your back will take fire if you rise. None of this happens by accident. Stories of the Leviathan move faster than currents. Children learn them with salt on their lips. Men make oaths over them. Each retelling sharpens their aim. You try to keep to the deep, but even stillness marks you. The water warms over your spine. Schools adjust their routes around the shape of you without ever seeing your eyes. Seals vanish from beaches days before you pass, as if the coast itself whispers. Terns scatter from the line where your wake will be. The sea is not a wall you can hide behind. It is a mirror that reflects every motion you make. You rise to feed, and the arc of your back writes a black sentence on the silver surface that no one can ignore. There is no den you can claim, no trench that does not funnel sound, no canyon narrow enough to hold all of you. Even when you drift, muscles unfurling, the weight of your body moves water in long, slow waves that travel to distant shores and tell on you. Sleep is a bargain you never fully win. You close your eyes and something listens. You open them and something watches. You can tear nets and crack timber and swallow sharks in a heartbeat. And still you learn the one rule that power never teaches in time. Being feared looks like power, but it actually means never being able to rest. Canoes slip over the waves at first, thin frames of wood daring to cross lines they once feared. At night, their fires glow on the horizon, dots of flame dancing over black water as they inch closer to your hunting grounds. They do not drift by accident. Each one comes pulled by stories, carried by the need to face the creature that mothers whisper about to keep children quiet. They come to see if the shape beneath the surface is real, if the shadow they heard is more than myth. You feel the tremor of their paddles long before their torches show. The rhythm of their strokes is steady, practiced, the kind of courage sharpened by ritual. They know what they risk, and yet they come. You rise without warning, and the sea heaves like a lung breaking. The torchlight shakes, faces freeze, and then the hulls crack. Teeth split timber into splinters. Men tumble into foam, arms flailing, mouths open in screams that never reach the shore. Blood leaks into the water, salt thick with iron. The first time brings shock. The second time brings hunger. But the third, the 10th, the 100th, all they bring is certainty. Each attack only feeds the stories further. Survivors crawl onto beaches and retell the nightmare. Songs carry your name inland. Priests mark their chants with your outline. Fear is no shield. Fear is a drum that beats louder with every corpse you leave behind. The canoes grow larger. Planks become thicker, bound with iron nails. Ropes trail behind them, coiled with hooks broad enough to tear scales from your flank. Some ships bring barrels of pitch to spill across the waves, and light with arrows so the sea itself becomes fire. You lash back, slamming your tail against their sides, but every scream you draw ensures that more will come tomorrow. You swallow sailors whole, but their absence only teaches others how close they must get to strike. Each death becomes a lesson, and the humans do not forget. The ocean itself becomes loud with their presence. Where once the waves carried only the language of whales and the pulse of currents, now there is hammering, chanting, drums struck on deck to steady arms. You are hunted not only by men, but by the echo of their determination. They carve marks into the coast to count how many voyages reach your domain. They leave offerings before pushing out, not to appease you, but to harden their resolve. Their numbers are endless, their will sharpened by rage and pride. You lunge, crush, devour, but none of it lifts the weight. Each time you surface to strike, you show them where you are. Each time your jaw closes, it only opens more mouths inland to curse you. You cannot end them. You can only fuel them. To exist is to draw their challenge. The sea turns red one night, and before the foam clears, more sails already rise on the horizon. And it is not only humans that your blood and legend are pulling closer. Storms begin to change before they reach you. The first thunder is not random weather. It is a summoning. Swells march in locked ranks as if a will beyond the horizon is arranging the sea. The water around you tenses. Your gills flare and taste a charge that is not natural. When the sky breaks, the light does not scatter. It draws a line toward your body as if the storm already knows your shape. You dive, but the pressure shifts in ways you have never felt. Something is watching from above the clouds, and the ocean you thought was home answers to that gaze more than it answers to you. Mortals called you monster. The powers above call you problem. In halls you will never see, your name is recited in lists of threats to order. Ancient texts carve your outline as the beast to be pinned, chained, or carved apart, so the world may breathe easily again. They speak of a hook that finds the jaw no matter how deep you hide. They speak of cords that tighten around a neck too thick for any rope made by men. You feel those words like weights on the water. The myths do not stay on land. They move through prayer, through ritual, through judgment, and the sea carries that judgment into your trench. The next storm brings more than rain. Barbed silence drops through miles of water. It is not a spear, not fire, not iron, but it still has point and aim. You feel it pass, and you bolt without thinking. Currents obey you elsewhere. Here they slide sideways, compelled by hands you cannot bite. Lightning lands, and the shock does not fade as it should. It holds in the salt around your body like a cage without bars. You thrash, the cage loosens, and the sea closes. But now you understand the scale of the hunt. This is not a contest you can end with teeth. Signs appear in places you trusted. A whirlpool opens where none should be and holds tight longer than physics allows. A slick of warmth forms above your spine as if a sunbeam has been nailed to the surface to mark you. At night, the stars arrange themselves into lines that travelers can read to find your migratory path. The old stories call this providence. To you, it is tracking. The Leviathan that once moved like a shadow now moves like a target. You avoid the coasts, but temples face the water and speak your end into the surf. Priests salt altars and ask for a world without your wake. Processions carry charms shaped like a curved blade meant for your throat. Sailors wear amulets that promise courage when the sea turns black with your shadow. Even the gods of calm harbors keep their doors closed to you. The message is simple. Accept binding. Accept the harpoon. Accept the feast that will be laid out when the age turns and your body is carved to celebrate the victory of order. You dive deeper and the trench narrows. The walls squeeze sound into a funnel that reaches the surface like a horn. Nothing you do is private. Your tail sways and cliffs answer with a groan, loud enough for watchers on headlands to hear. Your breath leaves a tremor that bells in sanctuaries can feel. The sea has become a stage and the audience is not mortal. You move and tides lean to expose you. You rest and dreams split with images that are not yours. An eye like a pale moon opens above the storm line, and you feel it in your bones. Power means nothing here. The gods do not fear your jaw. They frame it in the language of hooks. They do not flee your bulk. They write oaths to measure it from bow to stern. You never asked for this war. It does not matter. Existence alone is the provocation. The ocean is no refuge. It is a guarded corridor that leads wherever they want you to go. When even the gods want you dead, life stops being survival and becomes waiting for execution. There is only one of you. No echo, no reflection in kind, no second shadow to share the trench. The sea holds countless forms, yet none match your scale, none match your curse. No mate drifts near, no offspring follows, no lineage waits to inherit the depth you command. You swim through centuries with no companion but hunger. Every beat of your heart is a reminder that the Leviathan is not a race, not a species, but a sentence given to you alone. The trench feels wider each year, not because it grows, but because silence is infinite when no voice ever answers. Smaller creatures know your presence long before you reach them. Whales shift routes to avoid your shadow. Dolphins scatter with shrill cries. Shoals split into perfect rings to leave a hollow space that always centers on you. Even the predators that once tested your jaws now vanish the moment your wake approaches. To be feared is not to be respected. To be feared is to be abandoned. The water folds around your length, but never offers warmth. It presses and presses, and still it cannot fill the void left by absence. You try to speak, though speech is not in your nature. The roar that rips from your throat shakes cliffs and turns caverns into hollow drums. The call is deep enough to split stone, long enough to rattle sand from seabeds, strong enough to silence the voices of whales for leagues. And still, no answer comes. The sound rolls away until it dies in distance, leaving only your pulse in your ears. The ocean returns to quiet, the same quiet you have always known. It is not stillness, it is rejection. Time ceases to matter. Days are indistinguishable from nights in the trench. Decades feel like tides that rise and fall without mark. Centuries collapse into a single ache because nothing changes. No creature ever drifts closer. No bond is made. No moment shared. You exist outside the pattern of life. All around you, species multiply, sing, battle, and die, leaving traces of themselves in the balance of the sea. You alone endure without connection, as if the very laws of nature excluded you. Eternity was meant to be a promise of endless being. For you, it is an endless cage. Your bulk grows heavier with loneliness. Muscles built to shatter ships sag when not used. Fins that once churned currents now drag through the water, with a fatigue deeper than exhaustion. It is not your body that betrays you, it is your spirit. You begin to crave not blood, not prey, but acknowledgement. Even an enemy at your side would feel like mercy compared to the hollowness that rules your days. But the more you long for it, the more the sea reminds you that you are singular. Legends on the surface portray you as chaos, but in truth, chaos would be a gift. Chaos means movement, change, opposition. What you are given instead is monotony, a steady void with no interruption. You gnash your teeth and churn the seabed, you roar until storms answer, and still nothing breaks the pattern. Immortality is not triumph. It is repetition until even rage becomes dull. When solitude grows unbearable, when the silence weighs more than the chains of gods, the ocean shifts again, and the worst is yet to come. Your name becomes another word for chaos. Charts sketch the edges of the world with your outline. Sailors spit your title for luck and spit again to keep you away. Children learn to fear the shape you cast on the underside of waves before they learn constellations. Priests turn your story into a lesson about hubris and order. Kings stamp seals with creatures slaying a serpent larger than empires to remind the coast that everything wild must kneel. The Leviathan is not remembered as an animal. It is rehearsed as the enemy that keeps the world awake at night. Prophecy multiplies like barnacles on a hull. Some say the next age cannot dawn until a spear descends and finds the hinge of your jaw. Others promise that cords braided from storm winds will bind your coil to the floor of the sea until a hand greater than storms tightens them. There are tales of a final feast where the righteous eat what once terrified them, where your flesh is salted, boiled, and divided, and the world breathes easier because your hunger finally stops. The details change with the mouth that speaks them, but the verdict never does. The end of the Leviathan is required for the comfort of those who will never swim as deep as your shadow. You try to deny them what they want by disappearing into trenches that swallow light. You starve yourself for weeks so that your wake will thin, so that the surface will stop writing your name in silver arcs. Yet even restraint leaves marks. The cold lifts above your spine like a scar on the sea. Currents reorganize around your bulk and tell your position to cliffs. Storms find you with a precision that has nothing to do with chance. You move, and prophecy keeps pace. You rest, and prophecy takes a seat beside you. Waiting becomes the substance of your days. Not the waiting of a hunter who chooses when to lunge, but the waiting of a prisoner who hears keys touch metal in a corridor he cannot see. Every season that passes without the hook feels less like mercy and more like rehearsal. The ocean that once felt infinite narrows into a corridor lined with listeners. Your breaths are counted, your turns are measured. Your survival serves as a reminder to the sky that a task remains undone. You imagine the last struggle because imagination is the only freedom left. You imagine coiling through a forest of masts and breaking them like reeds. You imagine rising under a wall of fire and driving through it, skin hissing, eyes blind, teeth closing on iron and thunder. You imagine the sea lifting with you as if the whole ocean were a single muscle under your command. In those moments, you almost feel the old power. Then the picture cracks. Hooks that are not metal bite, ropes that are not fiber tighten. Forces you cannot name set the angles of your fall. The future has already been told so many times that it no longer needs your consent. You were taught by pain that hunger rules, by pursuit that fear travels faster than sound, by gods that existence can be a crime. Now another lesson settles in the bones of your jaw. Choice is the first flesh carved from you, long before any spear finds your throat. You swim because you must. You endure because you must. And the terror that finally grips you is not the thought of dying under a sky split with lightning. It is the recognition that nothing in this life was ever freedom. From the first moment you opened your eyes in the black pressure of the abyss, it was a curse.